Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me and Jay again for Legion of Two for episode 6 of Legion of Cheese. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing quite well. It's near the festive time. What about yourself?
Well, it is indeed, yes. I'm doing pretty good, thank you. It's today, what is it? It is Tuesday, the 17th of December, 2024. So we are, less than a week from Christmas, only a few days out from winter solstice. So, yes, we are in the depths of the darkest part of the year in the northern climes, aren't we?
Indeed, we are.
Indeed. As is often the case, isn't it? This time of year is a good moment to look back on what's happened over the course of the last 12 months. And that's indeed what is the theme of today's episode, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
When did we last do Legion of Cheese? I think it was when we talked about Mark 5. Yes, episode 5. Mark 5 for Mark 5 Army, yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 5 for Mark 5 Armour. What our idea is that led us to do this episode was to look back over the past 12 months and just reflect a bit on what's happened in the Heresy, because by any measure of the word, it's been quite a remarkable year for Horus Heresy releases.
Oh, it definitely has, yeah.
There's been a lot, hasn't there? But at the same time, it's also been a bit of an odd experience because of how those releases have been phased. And as we like to do, we like to get into a bit of detail, don't we? And have a look at what happened and reflect on that, have a look forward, and just generally have a year in review. 2024, a year in Heresy. That's the plan. But before we get into that, I thought I'd just ask you, what have you been up to this last year in terms of your own Heresy hobbying? Have you been doing any interesting projects?
I have been toing and froing, actually. So I started this year by continuing on with my World Eaters to get them up to 5k, I think, from 3k. But instead of going armor heavy or special units heavy, I went a lot of infantry. So I didn't want to just sort of reach the next K milestone by throwing in a couple of rather large tanks. So I did that. Just as I was getting round to that, Beta Garmin dropped. And I am a very big Black Shield player. So I managed to dig out the Black Shields that I had basically in mothballs that were waiting for the rules, all built new Mark 6, all the newest kits, but they were just sitting waiting, sort of running them as variant legions. Just one, to get a feel of the legions, and two, just to actually play with the miniatures. So managed to get them going. They're up to about 3k, I think, maybe just under.
Very nice.
And then I decided to try and do a third army. Now, I'm a bit like a kid in a candy shop when it comes to Heresy, and I couldn't choose between the Imperial Fists or the Blood Angels. This army had to be proper full-scale Imperial. It couldn't be Black Shields on the fence, and we know the World Eaters are traitor, even though I run them as Istvan 3. So I couldn't decide between them. So instead of tossing a coin, I decided to do them both. And I got the Imperial Fists up to 1500.
Yeah.
And then, realizing the year was coming to an end, I said to myself, right, I'm going to set myself a challenge. I have a friend of mine who doesn't get to play a lot, and he only plays small games just because he has a small model count. And I said to him, okay, well, I will try and get the Blood Angels up to 500 points, competitive, like completely legal, by Christmas. And that's what I've been blasting through for the past 4 weeks. I have the 2 10-man assault squads done, and the Praetor is being started tomorrow, actually, the 18th. I plan to have him done for Christmas Day because I'm going to play with my friend the day after Boxing Day, and he's bringing 500 points of his Emperor's Children. So that's going to be a bit of fun.
So that's quite an impressive year, and I've certainly been enjoying your photos over on Instagram of your armies as they've been taking shape. You got like a second Christmas, didn't you, when the Black Shields dropped in Beta Garments?
Oh, yeah.
I was very chuffed for you when that landed. It's what you'd always wanted, so...
Yeah, it's like that. If anybody knows that Simpsons meme of the Dredrick Tatum meme of the guy dancing over the Russian line knocked out, and it cuts to Homer doing the same little turkey trot dance. That was me, when the Black Shields were announced. I was like, yes, woohoo!
Get in, yeah.
What about yourself? What have you been working on?
What have I been working on? That's a good question. So I've been a bit of a Heresy ping pong ball, I suppose, this year. I've done a few bits here and there. I've done a bit of work on rounding out my word bearer army, which was adding a Mark IV las cannon squad, which is something I bought about 7 years ago. Well, I bought it off a guy. And it can't be 7 years ago, isn't it? Probably nearly 7 years, maybe 5. And I never got round to adding it. So I finally did that, which was quite a big project, just because of the amount of work those old models take. But it was nice. I don't have many of those old first generation resin Marines left. So it was nice getting to the end result. I was really pleased with those. I got hold of Endrid Hard because I think he's just so cool. Got hold of a couple of characters this year, the Siege Master, and then the Sons of Horus Praetor in Artificer Armour. Another
Hmm.
very nice model I got hold of. Mr. Dodgy Sword himself, Tybalt Mar, which I really like that model. I quite like the meme of, don't pick up a dangerous sword in a dungeon. And Tybalt Mar's sword is definitely not of human origin, let's say. So
Yeah,
I've got
yeah.
a little collection of Heresy characters and models who have definitely picked up those dodgy swords, and he's added to that.
He would go quite well beside Lucius and/or Fulgrim holding the blade of the lair.
Absolutely, yes. They could start a little club of, wielders of dodgy provenance swords. So I did that. I've done some quite exciting commissions, which
Hmm.
are related. So a Thunderhawk I did, and then a Mastodon as well. The big beast, the Mastodon, which it's not an easy kit like all these big ones are, but it is such
Yeah.
a cool model. And this was the one with like the kind of like 1.1 version, so it had the plastic
Right.
buttons. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
interesting doing one of those and magnetizing all the weapons.
I've always wanted one of those, but
Hmm.
one, the money alone would mean I'd have to remortgage, and two, I don't know if I'd ever play a game big enough to actually use it, because the one time I decided to bring out some of my bigger miniatures in one of my Legion games, the person who I was playing against, for lack of a better term, just rage quit because they were like, "I have nothing that can beat that," and I'm like, "Well, it's a legal list. It's only a fell blade, you know." But they sort of took the hump. So I wouldn't really want to buy a mastodon after sort of saying, "Oh no, 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 that's okay. I promise I won't take anything nasty." Wallop.
Well, there is that. Although a little counterpoint to that is a lot of people are of the opinion that mastodons aren't hugely effective in game. So if there was any one of the super heavy tanks to buy and give your own opponent less of a hard time, the mastodon is it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Thematic wise, it would also be quite well. In the Black Shield story, False War, if I remember correctly,
Hmm.
it's Endrid has a couple of those that he stole from the Sons of Horus when he took the Cicatrice Tyrannus. So that would suit, I think, the black. Now, see, now you're tempting me, and we're getting close to Christmas. No, no, I'm not going to give in to temptation.
Bad influence, right? So let's park that before I lead you astray further. Yes, I think we've both had quite a lot going on in our heresy hobby this year, and that mirrors what was going on in terms of heresy releases, certainly for part of the year. So yeah, let's get into the main theme of today's episode, which is a retrospective look at 2024. So what we've had a bit of a chat beforehand, as we do, and we've kind of like sketched out a history of what got released, and we're going to go through this in like segments, and then I think once we get to the end we'll reflect back on that a bit and also look forward into next year.
Hmm. Hmm.
So in terms of what's announced but not landed, and also a bit of speculation as well, although we shouldn't do too much speculation because we should save that for a new year episode, shouldn't we?
Oh, definitely. If we're lucky and we get the same reveals we got last year, which is some of those nice silhouetted miniatures in the week between Christmas and New Year's, which hopefully they'll do for every game system, then it might be best, yeah, to save a lot of the speculations for after that happens, and then we can, look and go, ooh, what have we got to look forward to when it comes to 2025?
Good. Right. Okay. So let's rewind back to January, February of this year. So the year started in the heresy world in terms of the tail end of 2023, wasn't it?
Yeah, Heresy Thursdays was going quite strong, and we were getting a lot of the single unit console type characters for the legions at that point in time.
Yeah. There was a Thousand Suns librarian,
Hmm.
which a lot of people, it caught their attention because they were wearing Mark IV armor. And it's like, oh, is this like the little teaser of what Mark IV might look like now? Thinking about a plastic tactical squad kit. And then we had the Alpha Legion Saboteur, didn't we, as well?
Yeah, in his hybridized Mark V, and
Mm,
that was the first time we've seen a newer variant of Mark V as well.
it was, yeah. And that's a very nice model. And then we also had the even more Mark V, the Apothecarian detachment, that was released as well earlier this year.
Fantastic set of miniatures. One of my highlights, I think, personally, if I had to put it in like a, say, like top 5 or top 3 Heresy minis that came out this year,
Hmm.
beautiful set.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. And there we got a very unambiguous view of a Mark V model. So yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's one of my favourites as well. Or it is one of my favourites as well. There was the Dark Emissary as well, which was a Sons of Horus Legion specific consul, which is another character for 16th Legion, which they've got a lot. Yeah, some people would say the Sons of Horus and the Imperial Fist get too much focus, and there is some truth in that, but they're also very cool, things like the Dark Emissary. And I hope they do the Overseer as well, is it?
Yes, he would be a nice miniature to see a consular variant of eventually. If I remember correctly, is he's the guy who can have Solar Ox as an ally, and he's meant to like have a whip and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah. Solo
Yeah,
Auxiliary or Militia. And
yeah.
buying him gives you access to a certain number of units of Imperial Army, in effect.
Hmm.
Or Imperialis Militia, I think the official title is in the Allies Matrix. It's very fluffy, and it also recycles one of the game ideas from the old Badab Wars as well, I think. Where,
Yes, it does. And the Astral Claws Overseers.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes, yep.
So it's nice that they've kept those ideas alive in the Heresy from the Badab War. So yeah, another nice model. I hope we get one of those. And then we had a couple of Legion-specific upgrade sets, didn't we, for one of your favourite Legions?
Oh yes, the Blood Angels were the second Legion to get their armory of insert Legion here.
Mm,
But they also got a little bit extra. So unlike the Sons of Horus, which just got the fancy axes and the Bane Strike bolt guns, the Blood Angels also got some vehicle attachments. I think they got the Baal Predator
that's right.
sponson.
Yeah, yeah, the Battle Predator turret set, yeah,
Yeah.
which very cool. No doubt allows all those Legio 9 players to indulge their assault cannon fetish. Not that I'm passing judgment, but I am just saying that you guys have got a lot of assault cannons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sure. Even in the armory set, they did release the. Is it Iliastus? Or is that the Imperial Fist only variant?
The Iliastus assault cannon
I can't
is,
remember if that's the one that's for those two, or is that just the Imperial Fist and the Blood Angels have an Iliastus variant esque, you know?
I believe the Iliastus is now the general infantry carried assault cannon. I think, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Although
great kit, regardless.
maybe I'll have to do a post production leaky cheese moment where I check the rules and find out what exactly that was. But yeah,
All people will see right now is a pop up of words and says, yes, it was.
people like post production leaky cheese bits as well. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. So yeah, it was a good start to the year in terms of these releases. I suppose one thing I would say though, and this is something we're going to come back to as we move through this year, is the lead time from when these models were announced to when they actually hit the shelves was not the usual time frame. It was somewhat longer, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a bit of a strange delay in what we would consider the standard format of, if we take an example, there's a 5 week turnaround or 4 week turnaround. These ones
Mm.
took slightly longer.
Did someone take as long as 2 months at this stage?
Not these ones. The Beta Garmin ones did.
Ah, right. So it's
Yeah,
Beast Armor where it started getting noticeable later, yeah. But
yeah.
strong start to the year with some nice models that hitting the shelves that were released last year. So that's kind of like that was like the start of the year. Then we move forward towards the end of February, don't we?
Hmm.
And then there is one of the major, big, exciting releases of this year for Heresy, which was the Mystery Plastic Army. And well, I seem to remember thinking back to our predictions video. I think we'd both gone with Solar Auxilia, hadn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think we'd both basically decided that while I would have preferred Black Shields,
Mm-hmm.
it was going to be the Solar Auxilia because we had enough marine stuff. It was time to sort of branch out, and you could sort of tell that's what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And the teasers on the 28th really give it away.
Yeah.
20th of December, that is, because we saw the silhouette of the little Sentinel.
Mm.
I can't remember which one it was, the heavy or the light variant, but we definitely saw one of them.
It was a light one. It was a Hermes Sentinel.
Ah, right.
The standard auxiliary ones, there's a heavier version that the Velataris use. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, so this was big, and this was announced at the end of February, if I remember. And as they've been doing for a number of releases now, this seems to be the general approach. They went with a battle group, which contains a fair old chunk of models. And then those models also got done separately, and then there were more as well. And yeah, there was quite a lot more as well. Because in the battle group, we've got a las rifle section, the backbone of the Solar Auxiliary Infantry arm, a tactical command section, which is kind of like a toned down version of the old tactical command section, which was a very fancy resin kit, which is more like a collector series miniature. The Dracosan armor transport, and then a Lehman Russ. So
Hmm.
that was a pretty impressive battle group. And then there was a whole bunch of stuff they added on top of that. So the Lehman Russ got its assault tank variant, so armed with, say, demolisher cannons and other close range hard hitting guns. As you said, we've got the Sentinels.
Yeah, yeah.
And there were, as well as Hermes Light Sentinel, there was
Atheon.
Atheon Heavy
Yeah.
Sentinel, which is the Solar Auxiliary's answer to the Dreadnoughts. We got a Malcador, which is my pick for one of the best models of the year. The
Okay.
Malcador Heavy Tank. I think the plastic one is absolutely brilliant. First, because I think the Malcador is one of those cool sort of like noughties forge walled tanks that go back to, say, like the Vrax Imperial Armor Age.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's great to see that transition into a long-term future in the range as a plastic kit. And
Mhm.
plus, the resin one was an absolute pitter to put together. So that, I think that was a cool model. And they gave it some new turret guns, and one of which was a long-barreled, I can't remember the name. What do they call the long-barreled heavy anti-tank gun on Lehman Russ's? Was it Lehman Russ Vanquisher?
I believe so.
I think it is, yeah. For the first time, they've put that gun on the Malcador, and I think, yeah, that gun fits that tank really well. So I did that. They did the Medusa and the Basilisk, so the artillery tank. I was impressed by that because, as well as it got a new plastic model, they gave it full internal detail, which I thought was a lovely touch.
Oh.
That really impressed me. And then finally, in this wave, we got the elite element of the infantry arm in the form of the Velataris Storm section.
While I don't play the Solar Auxiliary, I wouldn't say I'm not a fan, but while I don't play them because I am more of a marine man, shall we say, the
Mm,
Velataris are beautiful.
mm.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
beautiful kits, and even just the concept, the lore behind them, running about humans just with axes, reminds me of like Napoleon's Grenadiers.
No, that's a good comparison. That actually, yeah. And that kit came with options to do them either in the default loadout, which is kind of like sort of like assault shock elite infantry with Volkite chargers, or with power axes. And it was interesting. The guy who did the sculpting work posted on Instagram after the fact, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I worked on this project," and they said kind of like I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't show the axe models because it was actually really the axes that were what they were designed around.
Oh, okay.
He said, yeah, because the thing that, what was a priority? Was it the axes or the Volkites to get the models to work? And he said it was the axes. He said, so yeah, the focus of the design work in terms of posing was on doing the axes. So he was a bit disappointed when they ran with the Volkites for all the promo shots, but you got all that in the kit, so I guess it worked out in the end. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, a very strong release, I'd say. And for the first time, it's possible to collect and own a Solar Auxiliary army for, well, not a cheap amount of money, but certainly a more sensible amount of money.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's a cheap amount of money. This army will only cost a kidney rather than the value of your house.
Yeah. Yes, the old Solar Auxiliary were very expensive. So very strong releases. And if you think in terms of the resources they must have put into this, I mean, there must be a few hundred grand of steel molds that have gone into setting this range up.
Hmm.
They've invested a lot, and I think it's an indication that they're in it for the long haul with the Heresy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an army that it works equally well for loyalist or traitor, and it also builds well as a detachment to the Astartes because of the way the army structure works with the Solar Auxilia, in that a single troop choice can be 3 squads of las rifle troops, so it's like 6
yeah.
infantry. I think you could take that battle group and it could be just a allied detachment. So you've got an infantry choice with a dedicated transport, a HQ, and 1 heavy support. Have I forgotten something there? Was there also an Atheon heavy sentinel in the battle group? I think there was, wasn't there?
Yes, I believe so because they had to release its rules in PDF format
Yes.
because they actually came out in Beta Garmin, but Beta Garmin was, if I remember correctly, it was like the Solar Rocks dropped. The next Thursday after their release day was the teaser for Beta Garmin's book on a Heresy Thursday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But we were still obviously 5 to 6 weeks away from seeing the book actually get its general release.
That's right, yeah. So the Atheon was also in the battle group, and that would have been an elite's choice. Again, that battle group would build as an allied detachment to a marine force, as well as forming the core of a auxiliary own army. So yeah, very impressive. And I watch the Heresy on quite a few different social media platforms, and I see a lot of people posting photos of their solar auxiliary tanks and infantry. So yeah, it seems like they've gone down well.
Oh, definitely. They were a lovely load of kits, like, and the use of the battle group now as the sort of the teaser, the tidbit of what you get before the general release, I actually think is a great idea. And we'll have to have this debate eventually: who had the best battle group? Because I personally think the Mechanicum and the Solar Ox came out a lot better than the Space Marines.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Space Marines, let's be honest, the Duradio was really cool, but they could have stuck anything with those new Mark III models and people would have bought it.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I think that's the thing. They could have stuck anything with it because the Mark III was such a big, like, great big deal, you know.
Mm,
Whereas obviously the Solar Ox and the Mechanicum were just all new. They didn't have to worry about, oh, we just need to put something in.
yeah. Those battle groups had to stand on their own 2 feet more strongly than the Marine one does.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, I think they very much did that. To get like a tank, a walker, and a load of infantry, sorry, two tanks, a walker, and a load of infantry is a really good set of models. Interestingly, just on that, availability was, I think, better on those because I've seen them on sale into the late part of this year, the latter end of this year. There are still some for sale if you look around.
Oh. So they've obviously seen how well previous battle groups and maybe even how the core 2.0 box set came and they've made a bigger allocation.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Yeah. Did they build more generously or has the demand not been as great? I'm not sure. But it's good to see that the availability was there. Maybe they did do a bigger allocation in a way because they looked at it maybe a bit longer term as being, they wanted to have a longer introductory offer, if you will, on these two armies
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
base brain. So you need to pull people in more.
Good for a
Oh, sorry.
general release, wouldn't it? In
Say
the
again.
sense that they would be quite cool for a continuous release. One thing Heresy lacks, in a way, is what AOS and 40k has, which is getting started sets for their variant armies. You know, the way you can get one for orcs, ogres, Xeno, Marines, Templars, Wolves, whatever. When it comes to Heresy, most of the GWs, the smaller ones, are sort of maybe 1 2 man stores, only ever really have the core box set, the starter set. I would love to see them keep the Solar Ox battle group and the Mechanicum battle group and just maybe they rename them as getting started with this faction. You
Yeah.
know, they were good value, they were great kits.
Mm.
Making them splash release or, eventually taking them down, I think they could have stayed.
Yeah, yeah, it could have. A bit like with, say, Adeptus Titanicus, where when they released it, they did the Grandmaster edition, but they've since followed it up with like a starter set, which it's not quite as good a deal as Grandmaster edition was, but
Yeah.
it's a decent discount on buying separates.
Hmm, hmm.
So, Solar Auxiliary Plastic, who would have thought it 5 years ago? There you go. So, and that kind of like brings us towards, are we getting towards the end of the first quarter? End of the second quarter, maybe?
First quarter, I think. I think Beta Garmin was April, May.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Garmin so well. What did you think when you heard this announced?
When I heard the Beta Garmin book was getting released, I was ecstatic because I had seen in the article that Black Shields were getting their own rules. Now, I knew the book was coming because in the Legacies PDF, it did say the Knight Errant and the Black Shields will get their own publication, hence why they didn't get a PDF. I
Yeah,
actually thought that meant Black Book, like the Mechanicum Solar Ox and all that kind of stuff. But this was still great, and it included new lore because The Black Shields in 1.0, there wasn't a lot of mention about them at Beta Garmin, so all of this
No.
was going to be new and exciting.
Yes, it was a very pleasant surprise when they announced Beta Garmin and all the contents. It felt it's going to be a very rich book with a lot to it.
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, they've come at the Black Shields from a very different way to Book 6 Retribution from the first Heresy edition. Hereby, yeah, it was very much framed around the Beta Garmin battle and then also the character of Endred Har, which I'm sure you'll talk about. I think they did a very wise thing in exploring his character more because he's one of the best Heresy characters, I think.
I would completely agree. Let's just say he wasn't front and center at all times because Beta Garmin was quite a large battle.
Hmm.
But for him to have I'll put it politely, have a conversation with the Khan
Hmm.
was great to see. The book also expanded on his organization because in the audio dramas done by Josh Reynolds,
Hmm.
it's implied that at most Endred has about 150 guys
Yeah.
through mutiny, disenfranchisement, him executing people for minor infractions because they're not paying attention and stuff. So he could never maintain enough men to effectively do anything of note. This book basically says that once he captures that place on, I think it was Theta Garmin, or is it Zeta Garmin? One of the outlying regions anyway,
Hmm.
he didn't need to worry about troopers anymore.
Yeah, he kind of like got his act together from a command perspective and, yeah, started to put together something resembling a formidable force.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
was also the first time we saw his logo.
yeah,
Originally, well, in 1.0, we knew he had a warband called the Fangs of the Emperor,
yeah.
but we didn't know what it looked like. And then to see the stylized teeth mixed with the M, mixed with Malkador's sigil,
Mm,
all rolled into one. And from the audio drama point of view, as you know, he had a few conversations with Malkador, really does tie into that as well. And I thought that was really nice to see.
yeah, definitely. That, I think, is like the cherry on top for Beta Garmin. Doing Endred Har, he got a fantastic model. Again, another look at what Mark V is going to be like. A very interesting model. And also doing a whole group of other characters around that. So we had, for the traitors, we had Tybalt Mar. What was his nickname?
The Either.
The Either, that's it, yeah. Tybalt Mar goes all the way back to the original Horus Rising, I think.
Yeah, yeah, him and Verlamoy,
Yeah.
the Or.
The Or, the Either and the Or, yeah.
Or to be precise, one of them could be the Or and the other one's the Either. They could never tell them apart.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. And they brought Tybalt Mar in very much to his nemesis or perhaps his quarry, Shadrach Medusan.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great characters of the Shattered Legion. So not only did we get the Black Shields here, we got the Shattered Legion characters. Shadrach Medusan, I think a very well liked character in the Heresy as one of the secondary characters. Nice for the Iron Hands to get some love as well. So it was
Oh,
great to see
definitely.
him included. Then, talking of Shattered Legions, there was also Hibu Khan as well of the White Scars, who got an exceptionally cool model wearing Mark II armor. Very nice.
He was a surprise for me.
Mm,
Beautiful miniature, but an unbelievable surprise. Given the lore regarding Hibu and his Sagyamazan,
yeah.
to have him appear was, I just think, a great way to include him in, considering how they have to stay away from the White Scars mostly at all times. So they had to think about how they're going to weave him into the narrative without the Khan asking for their heads.
Yeah. He nicely fits with the sort of rogues and renegades theme of Beta Garmin, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Beta Garmin did have a sort of we're not playing with the main characters, we're playing with the side characters here, but they're the main characters of their own narrative.
Yeah, fantastic to get those models. And of course, the last one, there was one final character, which was
Oh yeah, Horus Aximand.
Little Horus.
Little Horus.
Yeah. I think for me that was unexpected. I wasn't expecting Horus Aximand to appear. I mean, I suppose, yeah, it makes sense given that I suppose they've gradually done models representing members of the original Mournival over the years, to the point now there's only one who hasn't got a model, which of course is Tarek Torgadon. As to whether or not he will ever get one, well, that's anyone's guess. But yeah, little Horus Aximand gets a model as well. Another very nice model.
Yeah. Definitely quite a nice mini. Beautiful detail on his face when it comes to the Medusan steel that Hibu actually fights him with on Dwell.
Yeah, and gives him a face amputation, which
Yeah.
the apothecaries had mixed levels of success in reattaching afterwards.
Well, he does. It's like they said in the book, he now looks more like the Primarch,
Yeah.
and he already looked like him, you know?
If you get an image of the two and compare Horus Ascended and Horus Aximand, they are the spitting image of each other. But Horus Aximand looks a little bit, like things aren't quite right with his face, as you would expect. But
Yeah, yeah.
the underlying facial structure and characteristics are very close. And I do think that the sculptors, I don't know which order they did this in, but they did a very good job at creating that likeness in a very interesting way. So, yeah.
Oh, they definitely did. I mean, seeing the quality of that miniature makes me yearn for the day we get another Erebus. Because Erebus had his face peeled off by the War Master when he spoke back to him in Fear to Tread. So I would love to see if they ever did Erebus 2.0, maybe like early Heresy versus late Heresy era, maybe the armor's a bit more ornate or something, and he purposely has the stitch marks, where they've had to reattach his face after the War Master peeled it,
That'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Yeah.
especially with the Chthonian markings he has in his face as well. There could be some lovely, really in-depth detail they could do there.
Yeah, and Erebus is, he is a quintessential heresy villain, and villains always make great character studies, don't they?
Hmm.
That'll be interesting. And then I think we also had around this time, there was one of the console models landed, which was a Siegebreaker console.
Yes, he was shown off in some of their production art for Beta Garmin, so his Heresy Thursday came, I believe, after all the, shall we say, the main cast of players got their place in the sun.
Yeah, I do like that Siegebreaker console models because firstly they did something a bit different with the Mark 6 armor,
Hmm.
and it's nice to see them break through stereotypes of, like, air quotes, Mark 6 armor is recon armor, which it isn't. It's good to see them say, no, Mark 6 armor, normal Space Marine armor, they use it for everything. Oh, by the way, here's a guy who's a siege breaker.
Tell that to the Iron Warriors who didn't want it because it was too light.
So well, yeah, but you know what the Iron Warriors wanted, don't you? The Iron Warriors wanted something that, I don't know, it was like a bit of a fanboy Terminator mega suit they were after.
They wanted Centurion suits from 40k before they existed.
Exactly. And this is why Perturabo isn't allowed to make decisions.
Yeah.
So that was a nice model. I like the little data display which had the holographic display of the Mark 6 Marine.
Yes, yes.
But it's not a clear image, it's sort of like distortion as well. And I like that because it feels like this communication's occurring where there's electronic warfare jamming and interference going on, as would be the case. I mean, that's the reality in the modern battlefield. That was a lovely little design touch, that was. For me, it really made that model. So that was another nice one. But I mean, overall, I got to admit, of everything they've done for the new Heresy, the Beta Garmin book is my pick so far. It's my favourite. It was well written, it had great content, and it added some new stuff to the game as well. The Black Shields list was really interesting, very, very flavourful. I just think it ticked all the boxes.
No, I would be inclined to agree. Siege of Cathonia was a good start, and it gave us the Inducti.
Yep.
But Beta Garmin really was a really good sequel. Now, me being the heresy player that I am, did I want more? Yes. Could the book have been 1,000 pages instead of a couple of hundred? Yes. But that's just me. I want all the heresy and I want it all now. You know,
Well, I know
because I
you're.
know some people critique it saying it was small and it was this and that and the other. The only way I'll ever say that is because I want more.
Mm,
It's not a critique. It's just give me it now.
yeah, you want more. Yeah, I mean, what I thought reading that book is it gave me a feeling that I was reading something from the early Heresy days again. It felt like the writers had got into that sort of the same creative headspace as the early, as of early mid Black books in particular.
Yeah, yeah.
And I very much appreciated that. So yeah, I was very happy with Beta Garmin.
Hmm.
And nice as well with the Black Shields list to see how much opportunity they created for all sorts of interesting modelling ideas.
Oh,
Space
very
Marines,
much so.
like the sort of like part robot Space Marines,
Hmm.
the Automata ones, and there's the, what do we call it, Armory of Desperation.
Yeah, the guys who steal everything that isn't nailed down, including the stuff the human has to.
It's like
Yeah,
we've run out of ammo for bolters and bolt pistols, so yeah, let's grab the stubbers. They had actually thought about it and said, right, this is what a normal human assault rifle is like for a Space Marine, and it's like it's a pair of
yeah.
tools for them, and I love that.
You know what it reminds me of?
What's that?
Have you ever been, well, in my case, have you ever been around your nieces and nephews, right? And they have toy guns and they're like from a pound shop and you pick them up and it's meant to be an M16, but it's only like 8 inches long and you're
Yeah,
holding it and you're like, this thing is tiny. That's what a Marine holding an auto gun's like.
that's a good comparison. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's like quite a lot of Nerf guns. Quite because my kids had a lot of Nerf guns when they were younger, and they were
Yeah.
quite small. Yeah, definitely not like real steel. But yeah, I like that. I really liked how the Black Shield's army list created all sorts of opportunities for people to model their own customized armies, including the welcome reappearance of the Xenos Deathlock weapons as well.
Oh, yeah. They're fun.
Yeah,
They were
absolutely.
fun in 1.0. They're still fun now.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I think big tick for Beta Garmin.
Definitely.
So we're kind of like approaching the middle of the year now, aren't we?
We are indeed, yeah. And I personally think this is when everything starts to slow down, I think, if you know what I mean. It's like we were on a high speed bullet train and now
Yeah,
we're on a steam, steam train.
maybe they had to stop at a station and the train broke down. I think there was one last thing that came out not long after Beta Garmin, and that was a command squad, if I remember rightly.
No, I think in the sense of the release schedule, it was close enough to be the Garmin compared to what came after, but I think there was honestly at least a 6 week gap, maybe more, after the general release of the characters because Beta Garmin book released on the same day as Endred. Great day for me, bad day for my wallet.
Yeah.
And we had that. Now, everybody assumed that the next Heresy, that preview they do on Sundays, right?
Yeah.
Everybody assumed that we would see Tybalt, Hibu, Shadrach, and Little Horus on that one,
Hmm.
so that they'd have the characters out really quickly to have people go with the book. But there was like a 4 to 5 week drought, and they actually waited till the next month, mid to late the next month, to actually put those guys up for general release.
Yeah.
Then after that, there was another 5 to 6 weeks. Then we got the command squad.
That's it.
I
Okay.
think the command squad was June,
Okay,
maybe
yeah, so it
late
wasn't
June.
that long,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but there had been a lot of stuff. And then, yeah, the Command Squad, that was one of the last things that was on the 23-24 roadmap from Warhammer Fest 2023.
hmm
And that was on time. The Command Squad landed, and then we were all thinking, melee weapons, melee weapons, melee weapons, weren't we?
Oh, some of us were counting down the days. I personally had guys waiting for the melee weapons, because I thought to myself, I don't. While I could kit bash them, I'd love to see what the new things look like. So I'll hold fire on finishing this guy's despoiler, this assault squad's guy, this, and that, and the other. And it ended up just going and going and going.
The days became weeks, and the weeks became months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we talk about the melee weapons set now out of order? I think we should, because we've got into that. So for 23-24, we got the Heresy roadmap, which was really good. So it kind of like gave us an idea of what was coming. They were kind of like being a bit coy on certain things like the Mystery Plastic Army. But they kind of gave us an idea in terms of annual quarters as to what would land when, which I thought was really good.
Oh yeah,
And
no, it was
it,
definitely a great roadmap.
yeah, it was. And everything was delivered apart from the melee weapon set, which was perhaps one of the most wanted, along with the Assault Squad, which landed at the back end of 2023, didn't it?
Yeah,
It was,
everybody was waiting on it. It
yeah.
was it was very baffling as to one, why it took so long to release, even with the roadmap.
Mm,
Because you would think that when they went for general release, when they did the 2022 CG trailer and we had that preview and they showed off the special weapon kit, all the heavy weapon kits. We had the Mark 6, we had the Spartan, the Praetors, everything.
yeah,
You would think that that should have been there
I agree.
because it's the basic of the basic weapons: bolt pistols, chain blades, couple of Volkite, and then you got your power weapons and stuff. But
Mm.
that is,
It,
that's
it
rudimentary.
Yeah, it had the weapons that allow you to make in plastic despoiler squads, which I think it's something that they should have released in June 2022. It's
hmm
2024. At the very latest, it should have been released with Siege of Cthonia, because that's when the not the despoilers, that's when the Inducti landed. And
That would have worked quite well, yeah.
yeah, and about half of the Legion's Inducti are despoilers, about the other half are tacticals, and then there's Dark Angel cheese. Sorry. On top of Sorry, am I sounding a little bit brassed off there about Dark Angels getting free Volkite charges?
Well, they are the first Legion. They are entitled to preferential treatment.
Well, yeah, are they also entitled to not paying points for the war gear? Anyway, let's park that. Uh, it was already, I think, from a point of view of the range, what customers wanted, it was already pretty late
Yeah.
in the roadmap 23, and it was scheduled for quarter 2, so spring 23. They said spring 24. In the end, it got released, was it November this year? So only a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but what is it, 2 or 3 at time of recording, 3 weeks at a pinch, give or take?
it's about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit. I'll put the exact date in
Yeah.
on the
So
video.
there was a long delay.
It was about 5, depending how you define spring, it was 5 to 6 months late. Now, what do we think? So, I mean, delays happen. I can understand that. And it's disappointing they didn't get it out a lot earlier, as we said, given what it did in the range in terms of allowing you to make despoiler squads and veterans and a whole load of other stuff. But I think for me, the thing that really I think Games Workshop dropped the ball on here is failing to communicate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like something to do with, you can't have your cake and eat it with Warhammer Community, yeah. So Warhammer Community it's marketing, it's Warhammer marketing, yeah.
Hmm.
And that's fine, and that's what I know it as. And some people know it's marketing. Some people do get fooled by the community name, I think. But it's Warhammer marketing, and they're there to sell product and promote the business. However, I think if you're going to give all the good news through that channel, you need to also be honest as well with your customers and say, actually, the melee weapon set, due to things beyond our control, it's been delayed, and it's now going to be, I don't know, November, December. At
Yeah.
least if you tell people that, then you're being honest. And there'll be some people who complain. I mean, it's the internet. But I think you will also get more people who respect them for actually communicating.
No,
And,
no, I agree. Yeah.
I think they definitely dropped the ball there. And that's something they need to get better on in the future.
Yeah. It didn't help that we were in the middle of the No Heresy Thursday drought as
Yeah.
well. Because after Beta Garmin drop and we saw all their characters, there was a good, 3 month drought when they did more of the old world and some of the War of the Ring stuff. It took over, or
Mm.
not War of the Ring, what's that called now? War of the Rohirrim. It took over the Thursday slot on their sort of allocation.
Which is fine and great for Lord of the Rings fans.
Oh yeah, yeah, nothing wrong with that. But we're here for heresy, so
Yeah, it wouldn't have broken them, would it? Just to have put a message out to say it's been delayed. This is when we expect it to land. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because the first actual wording we got was Nova.
Ah, yes. Which brings us into like the last phase of the roundup of this year, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of like where we have to also go wow again, because another incredible set of plastic models. So not only, and again, this is giving them credit for their roadmap, not only was there one mystery plastic army this year, there were two. And the Mechanicum have been plasticized, which is wow.
Considering some of their kits, definitely. I never thought I'd see the Thanatar,
Mm.
one of their early releases, not just in plastic in general, one of the early ones, you know.
Yeah, having built 3 of those things in resin, I'm very impressed that they were able to convert it into plastic. I've seen quite a few people say that they thought the Thanatars and Castellax were very difficult to put together. It's like, well, they are quite fiddly, but what would you rather they do? Would you rather they ditch the designs that people love from the resin era and come up with something new, which you probably won't look as cool,
Mm-hmm.
or do you just have a bit more kit complexity? I think they did the right decision because
Yeah,
they're very cool designs. Is
it
this
was.
over open when the plastic Mechanicum landed?
It was indeed, yes. We had the teaser sort of 2 minute video showing them off, and then it went into the Andy Hoare interview where he
Mm,
had them sitting in front of him, including the Thanatar, which wasn't actually shown off because he sort of teased this is in the battle group. This is coming after for general release because if I remember the Magos, he wasn't actually in the battle group, he was in the general release.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just on that, so same approach as with the Solar Auxilia. They did a big box set and then separates. And the box set had Castellax, Thalax, a Triaros armored conveyor, so big vehicle, and tech thralls. So some of the core units, tech thralls, brilliant in plastic. Finally, you could, tech thralls are amongst the most dirt cheap troops points wise in Heresy. So, apply them as plastic, makes them usable. So you can actually have hordes of these mechano zombies. Great box set. I remember working out at the time, and it was actually, I felt that you got a bit more value in that box compared to separate prices as opposed to some of the other ones.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was a good deal, that box was.
That just kind of reinforces what I said earlier on about
Mm.
keeping them as starter box sets for people who
Mm.
wish to play Heresy, just not Astartes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, why not? So did those four, and did the separates, and then, as you said, there was a separate Magos, and then the Thanatar Kavas, and the Thanatar Kavas is the original Thanatar with the plasma helix mortar. So not the Thanatar Calyx, which is the one with the really funky neutron laser and the graviton ram, which I'm sure is only a matter of time before it lands in plastic. But yeah, amazing plastic models. And I've got some, I've not done much with them yet. They're perfect translations of the resins.
Hmm.
Very impressive kit design. And on the Triaros, you've taken one of those somewhat temperamental resin vehicle kits, turned it into plastic, way, way more accessible, affordable, and you get a load of little accessories with that vehicle that you didn't get on the resin original. So yeah, very good.
No, definitely.
For non-marine players, 2024 has been the greatest Heresy year ever, I would say.
Oh, definitely. Since the original announcement of the Solar Ox
Mm.
and all the Mechanicum stuff back during 1.0's early years, it was definitely a good year. Now, some people may say they would have preferred maybe a few more of the kits. What is that? Oh God, what is the name of that? The Mechanicum tank that's based off the Triaros, but it's sort of like their heavy support variant, has the massive cannon.
Oh yes, the
Arachnos?
Karaknos assault
Yeah.
tank. Yes, it's named after Karaknos. It's Greek, isn't it? It's like, is it Greek for crab or something?
I'm sure some people are
Oh,
itching to have that.
yeah, Karaknos. It's like a Greek Leviathan mythical crab creature, if I remember rightly. Uh,
Yeah.
that's a cool model, that, with the plasma base, and I bet on the plastic one they'll open as well, like on the resin one. That'd be great. I'm sure that
Mhm.
as well. They've done 80-90% of work with the Triaros. The other thing that's missing, and this is sort of segueing a bit, is the Krios battle tank.
Okay.
That's a noticeable gap in the plastic range, because so far, if you look, they've kind of like done, various parts of infantry. Mechanicum sort of defy the basic infantry because they don't really have basic infantry. They've got expendable fodder, and then they've got pretty elite units like the Castellax and the Thanatar,
Yeah, yeah.
but they don't have a proper battle tank yet. In the next book of year, and we'll talk about it in detail later, but there was a new weapon introduced for the Krios battle tank. So far we've had the lightning cannon and the pulsar fusel or something,
Okay.
which is basically, I imagine it as a bit like a mad scientist las cannon. Electro las cannon, it's quite fun. But they added a radiation weapon as well. So I suspect that when we get a Krios battle tank kit in plastic, it will come with all three weapon options.
That could be one of the reasons why maybe then it is. I don't want to say delayed, but the interview that Andy Hoare did say that everybody was getting a second wave. Even though he'd only just actually announced wave one of Mechanicum, he did say that the Marines were getting a second wave of more infantry and tanks, the Solar Ox were getting some more, and the AdMech were getting, or sorry, the Mechanicum were getting some more. So
Yeah.
that could be just sitting for maybe by this time next year we'll be talking about its general release.
Hopefully so. Right, so you brought it up now. Nova Open, the Andy Hoare interview, and the Heresy Roadmap 24-25, which is going to be a delicate and sensitive subject, I feel.
I shall refrain from using my favorite four-letter words.
I do appreciate that, Jay, because we do try to keep Channel Leakages family friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. This felt like, I don't know, it felt very vague and hand wavy, the Heresy 24-25 roadmap. What they actually put in print it's almost vague to the point of meaninglessness.
Hmm.
And the fact that half of the visual area was used up by saying what they've done. Yeah, we appreciated that. But it's one thing having a couple of guys like us or other fans reflect, say, oh, isn't it great what they brought out this year? Yeah. A bit blowing your own trumpet for Games Workshop to say, oh, look what we've brought out this year. For me, that didn't land right.
No, it failed, I think, in what it is meant to be. It's a roadmap. You know, seeing the stuff that we've previously seen on the roadmap doesn't work, especially when they hit the ball. I won't say they hit it out of the park, but they hit a cracker with the 23-24 one, which was per quarter, jobs a good one, gave us something to look forward to.
Mm.
This one was half, as you say, stuff we already knew existed, and then there were tanks and more to come. Now, look, I know people make jokes in the Heresy about where we're swimming in armor. That's fair enough. I don't mind tanks. They're going to throw out a couple more. We're missing a load of them, Sakaran variants and things like that. That's
So,
great. But, it just. I'll use an example. We spoke about this a few days ago.
mm,
When they did the Old World roadmap, it told people what was coming. And it was as simple as that. Now, it was as vague as this, but it told people the Empire was coming,
mm,
then it was the High Elves, and
mhm.
then it was somebody else. I can't remember who. I think it was maybe the Beastmen. But the point is, people knew from that roadmap you were getting the Empire, which are now currently getting their Monday previews. I think
Nice.
as
Yeah.
of time of recording, the Lord Marshal of the Knights Panther has just been shown off.
Yeah.
So everybody knew they were coming. Great. For those High Elf fans, they're probably chomping at the bit, waiting after the Sons of Sigmar, bang. That gave more information than what we got. And it was quite vague. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Is it's crazy that they were both very vague, and yet one still told people what to look forward to.
Mm.
Our one just said tanks.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the wrong message to send as well at the moment because the tanks are great, and I know why they introduced the tanks so early on. But I also feel that we are 2.5 years into Heresy 2.0 now, and we don't yet have a kit for making Seekers, for making
Hmm.
recon Marines, for making Destroyers, for making Breachers.
Yeah, yeah. They don't even need real kits. Now, this would
Yeah,
almost is tantamount to heresy.
yeah,
Upgrade sprues.
yeah,
We have pre-existing men, and if they do it generically, like they did with the melee weapons, and in a few years' time, you and I will be sitting with Mark 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7, because they teased it in the Martian book. Cool.
mm.
You
But
know, yeah, get it out.
I know, and then there's the speeders as well, aren't there? So the in the
Yes,
Proteus,
yes.
they
Which are currently sold out. I believe all but one is actually currently
mm,
sold out on the web store. And usually when they say sold out, it's gone.
yeah.
Like
So
not getting reboxed, gone.
and the rapiers.
Yes, and the tarantula sentry turrets as well.
Yeah, all these things aren't tanks, but are nice parts of the Legion list. That it's not just that they haven't had a model this edition. Some of them have never had models.
No. And we know they exist in a Mark, I don't like to use the term Mark 6 variant, but
Yeah,
in Legions Imperialis, we did see the sort of updated, flashy Mark 6 rapier, and we saw a more streamlined, smooth tarantula.
yeah, we did. Yeah, yeah. So,
So just like we saw with the Asherax, I think they're called, and the Ursarax for the Mechanicum.
yep.
So they obviously are going to get a big model eventually.
Oh, the Arlatax, yes.
Yes, sorry, yeah, I
Yeah,
mispronounced
I
that.
know
Yeah,
the one you mean now. Yes, the jump jet robot. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
So obviously, if it's in small form, we would hope it's going to be in big form soon. You
yeah.
know.
Yeah, at some point, absolutely. The odd thing, though, about the way they did the announcements around Nova is the roadmap visual was, like we say, it's nothing burger. But they also did this interview with Andy Hoare, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
And this was considerably more insightful. And as to why they couldn't have meshed what he said in the interview with what was on the roadmap, I don't quite know. But at least when Andy Hoare was talking, he did give us some details. And go on, you fire these off because I think you recall them better than I do.
Yeah, what he basically said, from what I can remember off the top of my head, he said that everybody was very happy with Heresy. Everybody was getting a second run. In other words, what we've just had for Marines that whole year was actually just their first bash at it.
Mm.
So he mentioned there would be new infantry. Everybody was getting a second run, and then he also spoke vaguely about the idea that eventually, all permitting, they would start thinking about the elite units for the legions in
Yeah.
plastic. He also prefaced it with a it's a long-term project, and that sort of fed into the roadmap of, well, are you teasing us for what we could see in 25, or are you teasing us for the next 5 years?
5 years wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
When Heresy 2.0 came out, I imagined it as being a 3 to 5 year project for them.
I
Uh,
would say 5 would have worked quite well.
yeah.
3, I think, is a bit too quick. 3 works for AOS and 40k, where,
Well, 3 was kind of like my low expectation level. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of like if they took a low risk for them. They could have done the marine stuff, which they knew would be successful, but they're clearly going in bigger and much more commitment than I expected them to, and certainly as quickly as this in certain areas. Andy Hall basically said, yeah, there's like a lot. He said there's some vehicles that aren't done yet, and he also
hmm
said that there's some standard troop options that aren't done yet.
yeah,
So that gives me some hope that over the next 12 months or so, less than 12 months now, we're going to get some more weapon upgrades through. It's a bit like the melee weapons, but
yeah.
perhaps to do destroyers, seekers, recon marines, and breachers. And I think, yeah, the Imperial Fist players are dying for breachers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, he gave quite a bit away in the sense that, he was obviously trying to, as you say, it's Warhammer marketing. So he was obviously trying to fire people up,
Hmm.
but he was vague enough that he got away with it, but he wasn't precise enough that I think maybe people were satisfied. It was enough for them to go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, and when can we expect this? He said it in such a way that he gave a wee bit away for people and it got them interested, but not enough in the sense of a time frame that they
Hmm.
were wondering when they were going to get it.
It
I
was, yeah.
suppose he had to toe the party line, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think the thing that's going on behind all this is there's clearly something up with GW's capacity to meet demand because so much of their product. So, melee weapon set, was it late because they couldn't get it in a production slot? I suspect that's the case. And there's so much stuff that's out of stock at the moment on the website.
Which is crazy at
Yeah.
Christmas time.
It is. I mean, I think they'll probably have another great year because they're just on such an upward trajectory at the moment. But I also feel that there's an opportunity cost of what they're not selling. And,
Yeah.
so when next year's financial report comes out, you could probably stick another 5 or 10% on that they've
Yeah.
lost and buy the
It's
lack of
just
stock.
yeah. It is crazy personally. Having worked in Games Workshop,
Mm,
knowing that they position 2 points of the year to be their biggest sellers. Now, they do well through the year, but these are the bits when they try to push the envelope, and that's England, UK, mainland summertime. Because in Northern Ireland we have a different sort of summertime. We start a couple of weeks earlier, so they always base it around July time
mhm.
for the mainland, and Christmas.
Yeah.
They're the two that they really try to crush. And to have Forge World, well, doesn't exist anymore, but the Warhammer shop be missing a lot of the things that you can really tell people would want for Christmas. And maybe a kid, maybe, well, okay, we'll say teenager or kid, bugging the life out of their parents
Yeah.
for that, I don't know, Captain Typhon
Yeah. This is,
or Mortarion,
yeah.
or you know what I mean, especially Primarchs. You'd think they might sacrifice. I hate to say it, but they might look at it and go, they might say to themselves, "We'll forsake production of dreadnought torsos to make the Primarchs
Mm,
for Christmas."
but no, it's a bit, yeah.
Even there, they're lacking.
I wonder if that is, I don't know, maybe we're joining dots that don't exist, but perhaps the vagueness of this year's roadmap reflects nervousness within the business about being able to have such a well defined release schedule as they propose for 23, 24.
They did promise one thing though. In the roadmap, they did say there would be a new release each month. Now, you could take that as in to say one new model will drop, whether it be a Praetor once a month or they're going to drop a couple of miniatures.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they definitely said one thing each month, but they
And
should have prefaced that by saying we
yeah,
don't include December in that
true.
because they never do.
That would be quite nice, actually. I don't think they need. One of the things I will say about this year, looking back on it,
Yeah.
Felt that, I don't know, they could have staggered things more, to keep you engaged with what's new and exciting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It came in great big lumps. It's like trying to race a diesel around a track. All the power comes in a big lump. You don't get the best performance that way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Not to use a sort of a bad analogy, but if you treat it like, no way people call it hobby crack.
yeah,
I got my fix at the start of the year, and by the end of it, I was scratching, itching for more. And because the end of the year was not as jam packed with stuff, I was sort of looking at it going, "Come on," like
yeah.
that. That American comedian, who I can't remember his name. Oh, there's this American comedian who does like a skit as a crackhead, and he's always appearing in places going, "Have you got a crack?" Just change that to miniatures for me.
An unrecoverable heresy addict.
I'm
Well,
sure they care, because I don't.
well, you like what you like, don't you? So yeah, so that was the roadmap. So a bit vague. Definite change of detail and expectation management compared to the previous year. But yeah, I don't know. I think it might turn out to feel better because they've not set the expectations, but we will see. I like the idea of having something every month.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
being regular, that's a good idea.
I think they need to balance between having such a vagueness that they can change if there's an issue, but not leaving it for so long that people begin to wonder, is there anything coming? Now, we know obviously there will always be something coming in some way, shape, or form because it's one of their game systems, but you don't want people feeling that this is a repeat of Aeronautica,
Mm,
which unfortunately I quite liked the game. It got
mm,
folded into Legions Imperialis. That's cool. And I still have all the books, but it did sort of peter away. I think
mm.
is the best way to put it.
Yeah, they do sometimes lose interest, don't they? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that really kind of brings us to the end, almost like the end of this year in terms of what was released. But before we look to the very end, where there was a bit of a resurgence, there are a couple of other releases just to cover off. So on the back of the Nova Open stuff, we got the Martian Civil War campaign book. Now, I don't know what to make of this one, and I've got to admit, this out of all the Heresy 2.0 campaign books, this for me was a bit weak.
Mhm. Mhm.
Fundamental problem is, where are the Dark Mechanicum?
Yeah.
And then we get to a question of, what is Dark Mechanicum? So the Martian Civil War includes rules for taking the existing army and adding like a Magos, who is a Dark Mechanicum Magos with some unique cyberthurgy and warlord trait type stuff. So it kind of has some Dark Mechanicum, but it doesn't feel consistent with the background that you would get from, say, reading the book Mechanicum.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a definite disconnect there. And yeah, I was kind of like quite disappointed in the Martian Civil War campaign book.
I
And
think
it
it
was
could have had one thing that really.
lacking. It didn't have any Dark Mechanicum units. Now,
Yeah.
oddly, roll on a few months, and then we start getting all these weird and wonderful constructs for the Legions Imperialis, which is exactly what everyone was hoping for.
Yeah.
So Martian Civil War for me is quite a miss. And after waiting for the Dark Mechanicum for the best part of 10 years, well,
Mhm.
probably 8 years, 7 or 8 years, it's never appeared.
Yeah.
And I think they still need to do it justice in Age of Darkness.
One thing to start. Here's how I think they could have made it a wee bit better.
Mm,
It's not great, but here's an example. You know the way the book is called The Martian Civil War?
mm.
I would have called it The Martian Raid.
Yeah,
If you style the book on what it is about, which is the raid, then people will not get the assumption and thus then be disappointed. You could tease, and as they put in the aspects of the Dark Mechanicum, in the sense that, when they led the raid, this is what they saw,
yeah,
and this is what they think is coming. And it's sort of like, you dip your toe into the Dark Mechanicum, but the book is about the raid, and that's it. Eventually, we'd get a proper, good, big Martian civil war, or the rise of the Dark Mechanicum, something that that's you get your teeth into that, rather than just what we got.
yeah.
And I think that would have smoothed a bit of ruffled feathers.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, the book wasn't really about the Martian Civil War in the way that Mechanicum fans imagine. It was a Astartes centric view of the Civil War from a point of view, yes, the raids from Terror to salvage some technology, some equipment, and the loyal Forge Lord who became
He became the new Fabricator General.
that was it,
Yeah.
yeah. He was like
It's Kane, wasn't it? Thuzela Kane?
I think so, yeah. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name now. Of course, you can remember the traitor, the one, Kelvor Hal. Villains always stick. Yeah, so he became like the Fabricator General in exile almost. No, that's a good way of looking at it. But yeah, so that was mishandled for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, a bit disappointing that. And then moving on from that, we got the melee weapon upgrade set. Finally, so it landed. Great. I really like it.
There's nothing really much I can say about it. Fantastic kit. Took a bit of time. Would I say it was well worth the wait? Not. I'm not too sure, but I still bought 4 of them.
So I think buying 4 of them is well worth the wait for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
as I say, more heresy, more often. If I had my way, I would have had them a year and a half ago.
I did review that set, and at the time I said, why have we had to wait 2.5 years for this? It's one sprue. Anyway, let's not tread old ground again. So that kind of like brings us up to more or less about the start of November-ish, mid-November.
Yes, the return of Heresy Thursday.
Yes.
Real Heresy Thursday, that is.
Yeah, so after a strong start and then a bit of a faltering middle, it feels like we're getting a strong finish, doesn't it?
Definitely, definitely. The return of Heresy Thursday was lauded. I think when they confirmed in the Nova preview that we're getting Heresy Thursday back, everybody was quite chuffed.
Hmm.
And they started strong with the melee weapons. And then, a bit like Heresy this year, it went up and down into articles.
Hmm.
Nobody was pleased. And then we had that one unfortunate week where they actively promised we would get one and nothing appeared. So people got a wee bit annoyed.
Yeah,
But then they came back with a vengeance
yeah.
with was it the Warhammer Day preview or the latest preview they did where they showed off the new vehicles and then the day later we got the return of Heresy Thursday properly.
Yeah. So yeah, and on the new vehicles, so this would seem to be wave 2 of the Solar Auxilia. So we had a preview of the special weapon Malcador variant. So that's a Valdor Tank Hunter. So this is one with a neutron laser, and then the Malcador Infernus with the enormous flamethrower. So 2 very cool heavy additions to the Solar Auxilia range there. Everyone's favourite little flyer that could, the Arvus Lighter, is getting a plastic tip, which is super cool.
I don't even play the Solar Ox and I'm still going to buy 2 of them.
It's a
Terrain pieces, they're going to be on the board or they're going to be objectives like get this. I still have the old, if you remember him, he was called Lieutenant Varus from the Battle of Macragge
yeah.
Warhammer set, the dude carrying the gene seed.
Oh yeah.
I still have a couple of them. I'm going to obviously paint them up. I'm going to use them in objective based games. Just get whatever 2 armies that are kicking lumps out of each other. One of you has to secure him, get him to the flyer. I
Yeah.
suppose it's any excuse. I do love that little.
It is.
I
It's
love that
great.
little
It's
flyer.
such a cool design. It's a nice little compact thing as well. So yeah, that's so cool to see that in plastic. Yeah, what's not to like there? And it does add something to the Solar Auxiliary army as well, because it gives them a sort of mobile edge.
So let's be honest, they're the first Heresy army to get a flyer in plastic. The Marines don't even have one yet.
Oh gosh, you can hear the kind of like shuffling of feet of all the people who want a Storm Eagle, don't you?
Yes, and
Without
I'm one of them. Storm Eagle, Fire Raptor, Interceptor. Just give us something.
So yes, those are cool. Rounding out a very lovely year for the Solar Auxiliary with those. We also got the remaining weapon options for the Duradio Fire Support Dreadnought. So
Yes, we did. Yeah.
there was 2 arm weapon sets: Volkite Falconet, Arachnus Blade. Is it Arachnus Blade? No, I can't remember. Arachnus Last Cannon, and then the Boreas Missile Battery, which is like the SAM weapon
Yeah.
for the torso mount. So that's really cool. They're going to release that as a separate kit.
Yes, just like they did with the Leviathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the combat variant.
We'll be able to buy 2 full kits. And they've also said they're going to make individual weapon sprues available, which I think is fantastic as well. So, yeah, a little bit of Dreadnought love at the end of the year. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we had then? Then I think we're getting into
We're getting into the previous 3 weeks of the return of Heresy Thursday.
the much loved Heresy Thursday. We do love Heresy Thursday, don't we?
Oh, very much so. When it's a long week and you're in work, sometimes it's something to look forward to.
Yes.
And considering some of the memes we've seen of people on other podcasts and things like Heresy R and stuff who every week I would see him on Twitter asking for Mark Twos every
Yeah.
Heresy Thursday. So
Oh, yes, that's the Horus podcast, isn't it? Yeah.
yes, yes.
Bless him. One
But
day.
we
One day.
started off with the Caster of the Runes, one
Mm.
of the Centurion variants.
Yes, for the Space Wolves.
Yeah, which was quite cool to see. Instead of them releasing a Praetor, they decided to go for one of the Centurion variants, like the Speaker of the Dead, the Caster,
Yeah.
or the Pacthian.
Yeah. Was that one of the ones that we speculated on?
It
In
was actually, yeah. When we did one of our what we think we would see, we did mention that some of the Centurion variants for Legion specific guys would get a run eventually.
Yeah. So we got one there, didn't we? And we got the Siege Breaker early in the year as well. So a couple of those have come to pass. But yeah, a really nice model. And I've seen a lot of people say complimentary things about the face on the Caster of the Runes, and I agree. It's a very nicely sculpted face.
Oh yes, the are you talking about as in the armored face or the armorless face? Because the Mark V variant, it does look very snarly. It
The
didn't need to go just a wolf head.
Yeah, the Mark V helmet looks great. Yeah, that looks great. But the unhelmeted head,
Oh yes,
yeah, very nicely done. So
beautiful detail.
cool model, great pose. Yeah, great love for the Sixth Legion. Then the week after that, the world's grumpiest Legion finally got a model.
Yes, and it's only taken how many years? This is the reason. Why do you think they have a chip on their shoulder?
Well, yeah, as I said to a big fan of the Iron Warriors, I said, "Well, what are you going to complain about now?" And he replied back and he said, "Oh, I'll find something." Yes, the Iron Warriors got two, not one, but two poses of a Cataphracti Warsmith. So, yeah, this is absolutely brutal looking model, isn't it?
Oh, personally, it is the epitome of an armed warrior. The
Mm.
armor alone is amazing. I find it surprising, but still great that they chose this miniature to be the Warhammer World exclusive variant.
Yeah, the one that's walking with the hammer. See, the other
Yeah.
one stood in
If
his
they did that for half a dozen of the legions, I'd be chuffed.
well,
You know,
models,
because
weren't they?
they usually have what, two or three at Warhammer World.
There's normally, at the moment, what have they got? They've got two, I think, which is the Cataphracti Praetor with Thunderhammer and Combi Volkite.
Yeah.
And then there's the Traitor Librarian.
Is there not also that custodian guy, the guy who's sitting,
The
Thean, Ixian something or other?
Ian Hale, yes.
Yes.
The high-ranking custodian tribune. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's him as well. So there's. I think people are a bit split on having one of them as an exclusive, but it's a great model, I think.
Oh yeah.
Both of them, they look the part, it feels. And I can see that the retail available version, which is holding the Graviton pistol, is a very nice miniature in its own right. And perhaps the one that is a more versatile model for converting than the Warhammer World exclusive one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, another very cool model. And then this last week that's just gone, so what we on? We're on the 17th today, I said, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
It was the 12th. We had an Iron Hands Praetor in Artificer armor, which I really like. I think it's one of those models that captures just how kind of metallic and, well, it's metallic the word, but how cyborg the Iron Hands are and how kind of like inhuman they look.
Yeah.
That's a great model. That very versatile, I think, in terms of like the design of it, and I can already tell you're going to get a lot of those used for conversions.
Oh, I've already got half a dozen ideas. That's yeah. All joking aside, while I'm not doing the Iron Hands personally, the rather lovely Artifice Mark III hybrid that he has
Mm.
already, that bionic leg, I'm going to have on several of my guys. You know, Black Shields, World Eaters. Just it's one thing Heresy has lacked quite a bit. Now, this would be me asking for the perfect thing, but one of these days I would love to see a bionic upgrade sprue
Oh yeah, that'd
for
be nice. Yeah,
for every mark of armor and left and right hands. That's it. You know, just or sorry, left and right arms. Because all Marine legions suffer casualties. All
yeah,
of them have bionics.
they do.
So what's wrong with just a wee upgrade sprue for those who want it? You know, chuck in a wee bionic here, there, and everywhere.
That would be an interesting addition to the range. Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Beautiful mini, definitely.
Definitely. So yeah, I think we're finishing the year quite strongly, a bit like last year, with a string of announcement of, well, not just character models this time, but some new vehicles as well in the Dreadnought. So yeah, some really good stuff to look forward to in the new year there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So it's been quite a year, hasn't it, for the Horus Heresy when you look back on it? There's been highs, there's been lows, there's been periods of intense activity, periods of waiting around, nothing happening, anticipation building.
And I think that's what kills it. I
Mm.
think if we could have 2025 be consistent,
So that
you
one
know,
every month.
yeah, I suppose we'll see. Time will tell that, you know, I'll give an example. The Dreadnought, the two Solar Ox tanks, they're, say, and the Arvis, they're January's release
Yeah.
because they came out before the Praetors we've seen. February's release could be the three Praetors or two of the three Praetors. March could be what we could see Heresy Thursday this week and the one after Christmas,
Yeah.
which then bides them time, as you say, because there could be an issue with how they're releasing things and they're worried about cementing things down. That gives them a couple of months to then see something we haven't seen. They could, as I've said at the start of our chat, I'm hoping we're going to see those silhouetted teasers. I mean, think about it. The silhouetted teaser for 2024 was the Command Squad. We
Mm.
didn't get that till halfway through the year.
No, we didn't know.
So, but that's not a bad thing. But the point is, they don't, just because they tease it doesn't mean it's the next thing that's released. We know what's coming next.
Correct, yeah.
So they could show off some cool stuff. We could get it in July, summertime, just like I said, one of their big hits. They want that summer hit.
Indeed. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next year because this year they've, rather than gone in effect finishing the Legion range, they've put some big resources into the Solar Auxilia and the Mechanicum, which I think is, from the point of view of the overall game, that's a very healthy thing.
Oh, definitely. You don't want the Marines to just be finished, done and dusted, and then the rest to come out.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you've got to cast a wide enough net that you secure a load of everything, but not leave a lot of things hanging eventually.
I think it's been the Heresy year for non-Marine players overall. There's been a few decent bits of Space Marine stuff, but really this year has been about the Solar Auxilia plastics and the Mechanicum plastic range.
Yeah.
And once the plastics are done well, they're going to be good for 10 plus years. Who knows how long these plastic models will be in production for? A long time, I imagine.
Well, look how long the Corn Berserkers existed in 40k.
Exactly, yeah. Right, here's a bit of a challenging, pithy question. If you were to rate this year out of 10 for the Heresy, what would you give it?
Right. Okay, well, I'll have to take it from two different points of view. As a Black Shield player, it's a 10.
Yeah.
As a generic Heresy player I'm still waiting for my rapiers. I'm still waiting for tarantulas. I'm still waiting for destroyers. But we got to see the Solar Ox. We got the Mechanicum. We got Shattered Legions. We got some fantastic characters that I didn't even know were going to get stats. I would say it's at least a good 6 or a 7.
Mm.
But if it, I preface that by saying it's a 6 or a 7 because we've ended with a decent bang.
Mm.
If we hadn't have seen Heresy Thursdays for the past 4 weeks and the Dreadnought, the Arvis, and the tanks, I'd personally say it's about a 5, maybe a 4,
Yeah.
because it did peter out quite badly.
So for me, right, so if I put the same question back to myself, I would say, I think I'll probably go somewhere between 8 and 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Because the introduction of the plastics for Solar Auxiliary and Mechanicum, I think, is huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely massive. It doesn't happen many times introducing these new models into plastic. And I think what that means for the game overall and making it more accessible for more people, I think that's really big, both in terms of cost and ease of modeling. I think that's a really big thing. So the only reason that I wouldn't go with like 9.5, I think, is for the phasing.
Yeah.
The phasing, having these big lumps of stuff and then periods of nothing. The poor communication around the melee weapon set. And then I think the Martian Civil War book was a miss as well. I think those are kind of like the negatives for me. Positives,
Yeah.
yeah. Models, I've not got a bad thing to say about any of the models they've released this year. I think it's been amazing. Really has.
One last thing I'll say on Mars before we sort of put that to bed. I'm genuinely baffled by the characters.
Right.
Standard procedure, sort of, from what I know, is they never release the rules without the mini that follows. If we
Mm.
take Beta Garmin as an example, if we take when they released 2.0, we got Causeway and then Lucius.
Yeah.
But we knew they were coming because they got the rules and they were teased within weeks. We haven't seen Diaz, Nex, or the Blood Angel guy. We haven't even seen a tease of them. They haven't been in Heresy Thursdays. They've
No,
released the stats without the minis. They said in 2.0 they weren't going to do that because they wiled in 1.0 with
yeah,
statless characters.
they did. Yeah, no, that's true. So yeah, there's why as much as the three characters we've had over the past few weeks are great. Why weren't they the characters from Martian and Civil War? I don't know. Maybe Martian and Civil War hasn't landed that well, and they felt, yeah, maybe we'll kick those back. We'll see.
Or there's a production issue, or they're saving it for, as you say, the next phase. Maybe they want to start 2025 with a bang. Maybe they're the teasers we're going to see. Maybe they're the silhouettes.
Indeed, maybe so. And it's going to be an interesting year next year. And I think, as tempting as it is to get into that, I think we should leave that for another episode, shouldn't we? We should leave that
Oh, definitely.
We'll do what we did at the start of this year, where we had some speculation about what might be coming. Let's do the same for 2025.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting thought experiment. And I think it's also setting ourselves a bigger challenge because we've got a lot less certainty because of the vagaries of this year's roadmaps. That's both a challenge and opportunity for playing with ideas, isn't it? So we'll definitely do that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Always fun to speculate.
exactly. And say speculation is free.
Hmm.
So yeah, we can definitely do some more speculating. Excellent. Well, I think that's been a great chat, hasn't it, Jay?
Oh, yes, indeed. It's always good to talk heresy.
Absolutely, yes. And as always, yeah, thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Legion of Cheese.
No problem. As good as always.
It's always good to talk some heresy, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I hope you've all enjoyed listening to this episode as well. As always, please do share your thoughts and observations in the comments section. There's a lot to go over here, so please do let us know what you think.
Yeah, and if we actually did miss anything, tell us that in the comments as well. I'm pretty sure we were quite concise, but you never know. There's always something that falls through the cracks.
We did do a bit of planning beforehand, didn't we, to try and get everything? But yeah, we might have missed something, and if so, please let us know because yeah, we like to try cover everything. I guess by the time this will go up, it will be close to Christmas. So whatever you are doing at this time of year, I hope you have a good festive holiday.
Oh, yeah, have fun, whatever you're doing.
And if you are hoping to get some heresy gifts, I hope you get what you want.
Yeah, you always want heresy at Christmas.
Absolutely. It's like Die Hard. Heresy is a Christmas movie. So again, thank you all for listening, and I hope to speak to you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye now.